My name's Matt. I'm 32, a mechanical engineer. And I say this with full clarity, I don't talk to my parents anymore. Why? Because they disowned me for marrying the woman I love. But that's not the wild part. 6 years after cutting me off, after refusing to come to my wedding, after calling my wife exotic to her face, they came back, begging, tears in their eyes. Not for forgiveness, not to rebuild our relationship, but to ask me their disappointment son to donate my sperm so they could have their perfect little white grandchild. Yeah, let that sink in. If you've ever been betrayed by the people who were supposed to love you unconditionally, I want you to listen close, because this story, it starts with silence and shame, but ends in something beautiful. Justice. Let me take you back. I grew up in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan. You know, the kind of suburb where driveways curve like manicured eyebrows, and every second house has a country club plaque nailed to the front gate. That was us. At least, that's what people saw. My dad, Robert, owned a chain of auto parts stores, high-end stuff, vintage restoration parts, nothing greasy. The man wore cufflinks with monograms and treated business lunches like court hearings. My mom, Linda, picture a woman who never took a bad photo because she never stopped posing. She was the kind of blessed wife who posted every brunch on Instagram with hashtags like Restaurant Family First and Grateful every day, while casually making comments like, "I just don't feel safe driving through that part of town anymore." I didn't fully get it growing up. Not really. The racism was there, it always had been, but it wore silk gloves. I remember once, when I was 12, my mom told her sister on the phone, "The new family on the block seems nice, but you know how they are with their yards." I looked out the window. They were black, and their yard was identical to ours. That's when it started to sink in. My younger brother, Jake, ate it all up. He was 4 years younger, blonde, athletic, charismatic in a plastic kind of way. The heir, star quarterback. Went to the University of Michigan, joined the right fraternity, dated the right girl. My parents were grooming him for greatness, for legacy. I was the outlier. I chose Michigan State over Michigan, studied mechanical engineering instead of business. My mom's response, "A state school. Really, are you trying to embarrass us?" When people at church asked where I went, she'd wrinkle her nose like she'd smelled garbage. Every family dinner turned into a subtle roast. The Henderson boy made partner at 28. What are you doing again? Matthew designing bolts at... For the record, I was making $67K as a design engineer by 26. Not bad for someone who wasn't impressive. But in my parents' world, if your paycheck didn't have a comma and your title didn't start with vice president, you were nobody. I learned to tune them out until I met Bella. It was at a professional conference in Detroit, just another networking event I wasn't even planning to attend, but there she was, presenting on sustainable manufacturing like it was poetry, dark hair pulled into a loose twist, eyes sharp, smile easy. I couldn't stop staring. I also couldn't understand half of what she was saying, because all the blood had left my brain. We talked afterward. One coffee turned into dinner. Dinner turned into three, car conversations. Bella was everything my mother was not. Warm. Grounded. No need to prove anything. Smart in a way that lit up every room she walked into. And yes, she was Mexican-American. Third generation. Born and raised in Houston. Her dad was a construction manager. Her mom, a pediatric nurse. Hardworking, middle class. Good people. The kind of people my parents claimed to respect until they realized they were brown. After 6 months with Bella, I was in deep. The kind of deep where you start picturing ring sizes without meaning to. But there was a shadow over everything. Her questions started coming up more often. When do I get to meet your family? And every time, my stomach turned. I'd already tried testing the waters. One Sunday, I casually mentioned that Bella spoke fluent Spanish. My mom's voice perked up like a bird scenting gossip. "Oh, is she foreign?" I said, "No. She was born in Houston. Her family's Mexican-American." The air in the room dropped to 10 degrees. My dad looked up from his steak like I'd just farted during the national anthem. "Well," my mom said, trying too hard to sound neutral, "I'm sure she's nice." Jake, from his corner of the table, snorted. "Just be careful, man. You know how those families are with money." Yeah, because Bella, with her master's degree and 71K salary, was clearly trying to trap me in my used Honda Civic. After dinner, Dad pulled me aside, the look on his face like a priest about to warn me of eternal damnation. "Son, I'm not prejudiced, but think about the future. Kids, identity. What will people say?" I asked, "What people?" "You know what I mean. We have a reputation in this community. You don't want to ruin that over infatuation." And just like that, I knew. Introducing Bella wouldn't be awkward. It would be war. But she wasn't going to wait forever. "Matt, I've met your friends. I've met your co-workers. I've met your neighbors. But I haven't even seen a picture of your parents." I knew she was right. And I hated the idea that she might think I was ashamed of her. So I made a choice. 8 months in, I invited her to Sunday dinner. I told her, "They're a little traditional. Might be awkward." What I should have said was, "They're going to treat you like you don't belong. And I'm sorry in advance." When we walked into that house, I saw my mother's smile crack before it even reached her eyes. "You must be Isabella," she said, overpronouncing each syllable like Bella was a toddler. "How wonderful to meet you." My dad's handshake was stiff, like he was checking for a fake green card. And Jake, he looked at Bella like she was a sales rep trying to sell him vitamins. We sat down, and the questions began. "Your English is excellent. Do you speak Spanish at home? How long has your family been in America? What do your parents do?" Bella answered with grace, but I could see it. Behind her eyes, that quiet, simmering steel. She'd been here before. She'd lived this scene 100 times, and still. She showed up. I sat there, trying to keep the peace, trying to keep it from blowing up. And then my mother leaned forward and asked, "What's your background? Dear, you look so exotic." Bella froze. And right there at that table, surrounded by family, I knew I had just let them humiliate the woman I loved. And the worst part, I said nothing. I replayed that moment 100 times on the drive back. Bella staring at the dashboard, arms crossed, her fingers curled into fists against her coat. My hands gripped the wheel so tight my knuckles ached. The silence was louder than any argument we could have had. And then she said it. "Your parents hate me." I opened my mouth to argue, to say, "No, they're just old-fashioned," or "It wasn't that bad." But she cut me off. "Don't. Just don't. I've seen this before, Matt. I've lived this. Your mom spent the whole night trying to figure out what's wrong with me. And your dad, I could feel him waiting for the moment to ask for my papers." She wasn't yelling. She didn't need to. Her voice was steady, exhausted. It wasn't anger, it was recognition. Bella knew what that dinner meant. She'd known it the moment my mom said exotic. But I was still catching up. Because the worst part wasn't how they treated her. It was that I sat there and let my mother dissect Bella's culture like it was some foreign seasoning she wasn't sure she liked. I watched my dad question her belonging with that smug, tight smile of his. And I said nothing. That silence, it ate me alive. The next day, I stared at my phone for hours before I picked it up. It was my mom. She'd texted, "We need to talk. Tonight." And like a fool, I went. They were waiting in the living room like it was a family tribunal. Dad pacing by the fireplace. Mom sitting upright on the edge of the couch. Hands clasped like she was leading a prayer group. "Matthew, we're concerned," she began. My heart was already thudding in my chest. But I forced myself to sit. "This girl, Isabella, she seems nice enough. But have you really thought about what you're doing? What kind of future you're setting up for yourself, for your children?" I stiffened. "Her name is Bella." Dad cut in. "Look, we're not saying you can't date whoever you want. Red flag alert. You know a sentence is about to go full racist when it starts with, 'we're not saying.' But you have to be realistic. What kind of life are you building? Your kids will be confused. Half this, half that. Never fully belonging anywhere. And honestly, what will people think?" There it was. The legacy speech. The "we built a name in this community" talk. The "you're embarrassing the family" subtext dressed up in concern. But then Mom delivered the gut punch. Then in holidays, are we supposed to pretend to enjoy their food, their music? Are you going to start speaking Spanish at family gatherings? I felt something break in my chest. She wasn't worried about me. She was worried about the tablecloth matching the tamales, my dad added, with that boardroom tone he used in meetings. "You're risking the future for someone who doesn't come from the same world. It's not personal. It's just not compatible." I stood up. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I just said one thing. "You taught me that family means love and acceptance. But I guess you meant only if they look like us." And I walked out. They didn't follow me. No one ran after me crying. No one begged me to stay. They just let me go. That night. I got home and sat on the floor of our apartment, Bella's and mine, next to the old wooden box I'd carried with me since college. Inside were my childhood photo albums, birthday parties, snow days, family vacations, smiling faces, fake smiles. I pulled out a photo of my 5th birthday. Me in a Power Rangers shirt, sitting between my parents. Everyone looked happy. I didn't know yet. Didn't know the conditions attached to their version of love. And then I saw it. My mom's hand on my shoulder. Perfectly manicured nails. That same hand that later pointed at Bella's skin with polite disgust. I lit the fireplace, one by one. I dropped the photos in, page by page, smile by smile. Ashes curled up like old promises. That was the last time I saw them for months. They didn't reach out. They didn't ask how Bella was. They didn't ask how I was. The silence was clarifying. Meanwhile, Bella and I grew stronger. She didn't push me to choose. She didn't say, "I told you so." She just stayed. Loved me. Believed in me even when I wasn't sure I deserved it. And when I proposed to her a year later at the same conference where we met, she cried and said yes before I even finished the sentence. We planned the wedding ourselves. No big country club venue, no over-the-top displays, just a historic mansion outside Detroit. Good food, a dance floor, and people who actually gave a damn about us. I sent the invitation to my parents anyway. Gave them 2 months' notice. They didn't respond. Later, I found out they'd booked a weekend at Mackinac Island. An elegant way to say we'd rather drink overpriced wine with our friends than watch you marry someone brown. Jake came. He showed up in a tailored suit and a forced smile. He barely spoke to Bella. Didn't talk to her family at all. But he walked her little sister down the aisle when her dad was walking Bella. A small gesture, and maybe a hint of humanity. I remember watching him that night, tapping his drink, laughing too loudly, glancing around the room like he didn't quite know how he ended up there. He was already trapped. Even then, I could see it. After the wedding, Bella and I built our life. 2 promotions, a modest house with a big backyard, vacations that weren't about posting, dinner nights with real friends, joy that wasn't filtered. Meanwhile, their empire started to rot. Dad's business couldn't keep up with online competition. Fewer people wanted to restore classic cars when Teslas were on the rise. Jake had no vision. He followed orders, but had no instinct. I heard through the grapevine they'd laid off workers, that my mom had to cancel her spa membership. The horror. And then came the Facebook post. It was vague, dramatic. A blurry wine glass with the caption, "God works in mysterious ways. Pray for us." I scrolled past it. But I had no idea the post was the first crack. Something was coming. Something big. And when it came, it wasn't just shocking. It was the perfect opportunity to finally make them pay for everything. It started with a phone call from Jake. Now, let me be clear. I hadn't heard from Jake in nearly a year. Not since the wedding. Not since he mumbled something awkward about the hors d'oeuvres and left early without even hugging Bella. So when his name lit up my phone, my first thought was somebody died. But there was no urgency in his voice. Just tension. "Hey, Matt," he said. Like we'd spoken last week. "I know things have been weird, but I need to talk to you. Me and Ashley. It's kind of personal." Ashley, his wife. Blonde, old money roots. Stayed-at-home Instagram aesthetic. She once posted a story about gratitude while complaining her favorite skincare line was out of stock at Nordstrom. I didn't respond right away, so Jake rushed in. "Look, I know you and Mom and Dad have your stuff, but this is different. It's serious." Against my better judgment, I said, "All right. What's going on? We'd really appreciate it if we could talk face to face. Or, like, Zoom face. Ashley wants to be part of it. And we have someone we'd like you to meet. Red flags, sirens, the whole parade." But curiosity won. "Fine," I said. "Sunday night, 8 p.m. Bella was skeptical. "You think it's about the business?" I shook my head. If it were, Dad would have called. "This feels emotional. Or messy. Well, that's what you get when you mix denial, guilt, and country club expectations," she said, raising an eyebrow. "Be careful." She didn't say, "Don't go." She knew better than to try to control me. But the unspoken warning hung in the room, don't let them rope you into anything. Sunday night came. I logged onto Zoom. Jake and Ashley appeared first. Both looked nervous, Jake in a collared shirt that didn't quite fit. Ashley in a cream blouse, eyes already glassy. Then came my parents, Robert and Linda, sitting side by side on the same couch where they'd once told me I was damaging the family reputation. Their smiles were brittle, performative, and finally, a fifth screen popped up. Dr. Sarah Martinez, fertility counselor. Oh no. Jake cleared his throat. Matt, thanks for doing this. I know this is probably unexpected, so just hear us out. Ashley took over. She explained, through tight lips and teary eyes, how they'd been trying to conceive for 3 years, how IVF had failed twice, how doctors had found that Jake's sperm count was almost non-existent. Dr. Martinez jumped in with graphs, success rates, genetic compatibility, known donors versus anonymous. That's when it hit me, where this was going, what they were about to ask. I could feel the blood leave my face. Ashley looked into the camera and said, voice shaking, "We're hoping you'd consider being our sperm donor." I didn't move, didn't blink. The silence was so thick it hummed. Then Mom leaned forward, clasping her hands like she was offering grace. This could be a blessing, Matthew. A chance to bring the family back together, to contribute something meaningful. Dad chimed in, trying to sound businesslike. You'd be keeping the gene pool intact. It's not just practical, it's legacy. Legacy. The word hit me like a punch to the sternum. The same people who refused to attend my wedding, who called my wife exotic, who told me my future children would be confused, now wanted my DNA. To preserve their version of perfection, I glanced at Bella, sitting beside me off camera. She shook her head once, barely perceptible, but firm. I turned back to the screen. I'll need time, I said, to think about it. They nodded. Ashley was already wiping happy tears, like it was a yes. Jake looked relieved. Dr. Martinez said she could email me the medical details. And just like that, the meeting ended. For 3 days, I couldn't stop thinking about it. The audacity, the entitlement, the desperation disguised as humility. They hadn't called to apologize. Not to Bella, not to me. They didn't want reconciliation. They wanted a transaction. And worse when it was convenient. I was finally valuable again. That thought stuck in my ribs like a splinter. Bella broke the silence that night while we were doing dishes. You're not actually considering it, are you? I turned to her, dish towel in hand. No, not like that. She dried her hands slowly, then looked at me. I know that look. That's the what if I use this look. I smiled, a slow, grim smile. What if I did? Bella narrowed her eyes. You want to mess with them? I want them to learn, really learn. She didn't respond right away. Then she walked to the kitchen drawer, pulled out a sticky note, and scribbled one word, conditions. She slapped it on the fridge. That's where we start. The next day, I called Jake. I'm not saying yes. I told him. But I'm not saying no, either. I have questions. He perked up immediately. Of course, anything. What would my role be? Uncle legal parent? Just uncle, he said quickly. We'd handle everything legally. You'd sign away parental rights. And compensation, a pause. Ashley's dad offered to cover expenses. And maybe a $15,000 thank you. 15 grand. They thought my DNA, my life, in a way was worth $15,000. I nearly laughed out loud. I'll talk to Bella, I said, "Give me a week." "Sure, sure, take your time." But I knew one thing already. They weren't going to like my conditions. The first thing I wrote on my list before the money, before anything else, was this: public apology to Bella, posted on Facebook. Visible to everyone. Bella saw it and raised an eyebrow. "You think they'll go for that?" I shrugged. They've swallowed bigger lies to protect their image. Let's see how much shame they're willing to fake. She didn't smile. Instead, she turned and pulled open the bottom drawer of our sideboard. From it, she took out a small, unopened gift box, cream-colored with a gold ribbon. Her name still written neatly across the top in my mom's cursive handwriting. I never opened it. She said, "It came a week after our wedding." No card. Just a pair of gold earrings. Apology earrings. Bribe earrings, she corrected. I never threw it away. But I also never touched it. She placed the box on the table. Between us. We stared at it in silence. Then I nodded slowly. "That's the second symbol," I said. "The first was the album," she whispered. That night, I drafted my list. Condition 1. A written public apology to me and Bella on Facebook. No excuses. No vague wording. Full admission. Condition 2. Full inclusion. Every future holiday, family gathering, birthday we're invited, acknowledged, respected, like family. Condition 3. $35,000 in compensation. $17,500 up front. If my DNA is suddenly priceless, they can pay like it. Condition 4. I want involvement. Not just Uncle Matt. Not just thanks for your help. I want to be part of this child's life. Condition 5, the hardest one. A verbal admission during the next family call that they were wrong. About Bella. About me. About everything. I sent the message to Jake the next morning. He didn't respond right away. Instead, I got a flurry of group texts. First from Ashley. "We're so thankful you're even considering this. We'll talk as a family and get back to you." Then my mom, Matthew. "These requests are unexpected. We need time to process. Can we call?" And then Bella showed me a text she'd received directly from my mother. The first message in over 5 years. "Bella, I know we've had our differences, but I hope this could be a new beginning. For the family. For healing." Bella didn't reply. She just took the unopened gift box, set it on our kitchen counter, and walked away. Later that night, she handed it to me and said, "If they give us what we ask, you can throw this away. Until then, leave it out." As a reminder. By Thursday, they agreed to the call. Same Zoom setup. Jake and Ashley. Nervous smiles. Mom and Dad. Clearly coached and rehearsed. Dr. Martinez, sitting politely on the 5th screen. I started the meeting the same way I'd practiced it in my head. "I've thought about this carefully," I said, "and I'm willing to help. Under the conditions I sent." They all nodded, maybe a little too fast. Ashley was already tearing up. "We're ready," she said. "We'll do whatever it takes." "Good," I said. "Then let's go through them one by one." Condition 1. Public apology. My mom looked visibly pained, like I'd asked her to walk through a fire pit in heels. "Do we really have to post this publicly?" "Yes," I said. "Because your behavior was public. Your silence was public. Your absence at my wedding was public. So your apology will be too. She blinked back tears. Ashley chimed in. We can help her write it. Jake nodded. It's fair. Mom didn't look at me after that. Condition 2. Full family inclusion. Dad cleared his throat. Of course. That's the least we can do. From now on, holidays are open to you and Bella. Bella wasn't on camera, but I knew she heard that. Condition 3, $35,000 compensation. Ashley's dad, who wasn't even on the call, apparently agreed. We've got the money set aside. Ashley said, we'll send the first half as soon as the legal forms are ready. I watched their faces. They weren't even blinking anymore, just chasing the outcome like gamblers at the table. Condition 4, relationship with the child. Dr. Martinez looked uncomfortable. Well, there's no legal precedent for that. If Matt signs parental rights away, involvement would be informal based on mutual understanding. I smiled. Then we'll write that mutual understanding down and notarize it. Dad winced. Mom adjusted her necklace. Jake agreed anyway. And then, condition 5. I leaned forward, voice calm, almost gentle. The last condition isn't written, but it matters the most. I want you, Mom, Dad, to say it. Out loud, right now. Jake looked confused. Say what? That you were wrong about Bella. That your behavior has been racist. And that you're genuinely sorry. You could hear a pin drop. Mom's lips parted, then closed again. Dad shifted in his seat. Jake looked frozen. Then Ashley, of all people, said it first. We were wrong, she whispered. I was wrong. I believed things I shouldn't have. I'm sorry. Jake followed. I didn't stand up for you, man. I should have. I'm sorry. Doctor? Martinez nodded encouragingly. And then, finally, my mother spoke. Her voice was hoarse. We were wrong. She said, about everything, about her, about you. I'm sorry. Dad said it too. Flat. But he said it. And that's when I ended the call. Not dramatically, not with fireworks. Just a quiet thank you. I'll talk to Bella. We'll be in touch. And I closed the laptop. Bella sat beside me. I handed her the unopened gift box. She looked at it for a long time. Then she stood, walked to the trash can, and dropped it in. Didn't flinch. Didn't look back. We didn't say a word, but I could feel it. The shift, the power balance was no longer theirs. What they didn't know was this. I had zero intention of giving them what they wanted. The next morning, I woke up to 17 unread messages. Ashley had emailed me a contract draft. Jake sent me a link to a secure payment portal. My mom had texted. I posted the apology. Can you confirm it's visible? I opened Facebook. There it was. A paragraph. Posted at 6:47 a.m. on Linda's profile. Sandwiched between a banana bread recipe and a shared prayer chain. To anyone who may have seen or heard of our past behavior toward our son Matthew and his wife. Bella, we acknowledge that our actions and words have caused deep hurt. We were wrong. We apologize sincerely, and we hope to do better moving forward. A little vague, but it was there. Public. Permanent. From a woman who once said, we don't need to apologize if we're not racist. The comments were a mix of surprise and confusion. Country club friends saying, proud of you. Linda distant cousins dropping heart emojis. I didn't comment. I just screenshotted it 3 times and emailed it to myself. Then I let them stew. For the next 6 days, I sent nothing. No updates, no replies, just silence. Bella and I would sit in the backyard every evening with a glass of wine, watching our dog chase the wind, and talk about how they must be unraveling. Jake called twice a day, left voicemails. "Hey man, just wondering if you need anything else." Then Ashley's already picked out a color scheme for the nursery. On day 5, my mom texted Bella again. "We know we haven't always been fair to you, but we truly want to make things right. I hope you can see that." Bella showed me the message without saying anything. Then she tapped the trash icon and deleted it. No hesitation. On day 7, I sent out the Zoom link. Same time, same setup, but this time, I wore a blazer, buttoned up, professional. Bella sat just out of frame, present, but silent. Her presence was enough. Everyone else joined, looking almost giddy. Ashley was practically glowing. Jake looked proud, like he'd negotiated a corporate merger. My mom smiled like a church greeter. Dad nodded once, hands folded like a CEO. Dr. Martinez opened with, "We're all here, ready to finalize everything." I leaned forward, looked straight into the camera. "I've made my final decision." The energy shifted. Everyone leaned in. Ashley whispered, "Oh my God." Jake smiled. "Yeah." I smiled back. "I'm not doing it." Silence. For a second, it felt like the whole internet froze. Ashley blinked. "What?" "I'm not donating sperm. I'm not helping you have a child. This whole thing ends here." The color drained from her face. Her smile twitched, then disappeared. Jake stuttered. "But you said you agreed." I shook my head. "No, I said I was willing, if you met the conditions, and you did." Which proves something really important. Mom spoke, her voice brittle. "Matthew, this isn't funny." I ignored her. "What it proves," I continued, "is that you're capable of saying sorry, of including Bella, of doing the bare minimum to treat us like human beings. When you want something." I looked at each of them, one by one. "You had 6 years to do all of this. You didn't. You waited until you needed my genetics to complete your Pinterest family." Ashley's face was crumpling. "We're desperate," she whispered. "We've tried everything else. And now you're learning." I said, "That desperation doesn't erase years of cruelty." Dr. Martinez tried to interject. Voice professional, "Maybe there's a compromise we can—" "There is no compromise," I said flatly. My dad finally spoke, his voice tight. "You're punishing us. That's what this is." "No," I said. "This is you facing consequences. Something you're not used to." Ashley was full-on sobbing now, hands shaking, mascara streaking. Jake sat in stunned silence, like the air had been knocked out of him. Mom's voice was barely audible. We thought this was the start of healing. Bella stepped into the frame, just enough for her face to be visible. Calm, unapologetic. She spoke gently. "No. This was manipulation. You never cared about healing. You just cared about control." She turned to me and nodded. I closed the laptop. In the silence that followed, we sat still. Bella reached across the table and picked up the printout of the apology. She folded it in half, then again, and slid it into the back of the fireplace. A flick of a match. The page curled, crinkled, turned black. The flames licked the words away. Later that night, Jake sent one last text. You really destroyed our last hope. You could have fixed this. You chose to burn it all down. I stared at it for a long time. Then typed, no, I chose to stop letting you build your house on my dignity. And I hit send. Cliffhanger, what they didn't realize, what they still don't, is that I wasn't done yet. The final blow was still coming. Morning light filtered through the blinds, dust motes dancing in the air. I sat on the edge of our bed, heart still pounding from last night's Zoom showdown. My palms tingled like I just pressed my hand into a live wire. Beside me, Bella still slept, her steady breathing a reminder of why I'd done all this. Because love is more than DNA. It's respect. It's choice. By 10 a.m., my phone was buzzing again. This time, group chat from the country club's inner circle. Did you see what the Harpers posted? Unbelievable. Is this related to the family drama? I thought they were the perfect couple. Their perfect couple. A memory already stained. I sipped my coffee and didn't respond. Let them talk. Let them wonder. That afternoon, I stopped by the local cafe where my parents had their regular business lunches. I wanted to see the fallout firsthand. Through the window, I saw Dad in his usual corner booth, laptop open, scrolling frantically. His shoulders were hunched, less confident than I had ever seen him. Next to him, Mom fiddled with a napkin, eyes red-rimmed. I ordered my latte and took a seat at a table facing them, just close enough to hear. Dad's voice was low, but edged with desperation. We're losing clients. Linda, they're concerned about the optics. Our reputation is in tatters. Mom shook her head, but we apologized. It's enough. Dad slammed his hand on the table. Not to the right people, they saw through it. I almost smiled. Karma can be beautiful. On my way out, I bumped into our real estate agent, Mrs. Davis, family friend and country club member. She shot me a sympathetic look. Matthew, darling, I'm so sorry you had to go through that. I shrugged. Family's complicated. She nodded, eyes flicking to Dad and Mom through the glass. They're hurting. But they brought it on themselves. I paid for my latte and left. No words needed. Back at home, I threw on sweats and grabbed the old photo album remnant, the last charred piece from the fireplace. I'd kept one small page, a picture of me and Bella on our wedding day. She looked radiant. I looked happier than I'd ever been. I traced the edge with my thumb, feeling the rough, burnt paper. It was a monument to what really mattered, our bond. Bella joined me, wrapping her arms around my shoulders. You okay? She asked. I nodded. Better than ever. Later, a notification lit up my phone, a news alert in the local business section. Henderson and Harper, auto parts faces major layoffs amid controversy. I clicked. The article cited financial strain and loss of community trust after public family scandal. It quoted Mr. Harper's spokesperson. We're working diligently to adapt to market changes. Bullshit. They were scrambling because they'd gambled their reputation on bigotry and entitlement. That evening, there was a knock at my door. I opened it to find Jake, looking unsteady in a graying polo shirt. He stepped inside without waiting for an invitation. I needed to see you. He looked older, lines around his eyes, a slump in his posture. The frat guy's swagger was gone. I led him to the kitchen table. What's up? I asked. He placed his phone on the table, displaying a string of negative Yelp reviews for Dad's stores. They're closing down 2 locations by next month. I tried to help. Man, I thought if I followed Dad's playbook, I could keep it afloat. He shook his head. I was wrong. I leaned back. You finally see it. He swallowed. I should have stood up for you. For Bella, I thought I was doing right by the family. But, his voice cracked. You were right about everything. I felt a flicker of something pity, relief, gratitude. It takes courage to admit that. He nodded, tears brimming. I want to make it right. I don't know how, but I want to try. That same night, I got a text from my mom. Matthew, please. I don't know what to do. I'm so sorry. Can we talk? I stared at it for a long moment. The words were sincere. But after everything, were they too late? Bella read over my shoulder. Do you want to respond? I tapped a reply. We can talk tomorrow. Noon, here. And I set the phone down. As midnight approached, I walked into the living room where Bella was reading. I held up the phone. I invited her. She smiled, gentle, supportive. You're giving them a chance. They need it. Our eyes met. But this time, I said, I'm in control. Tomorrow at noon, my mother will walk through our door. After 6 years, after humiliation and manipulation, the final reckoning begins by noon. The sunlight in our living room had warmed everything to a golden hue, almost forgiving. I stood by the doorway, heart hammering as I heard the front door open. My mother stepped in first. Her face was pale, eyes rimmed red from tears I knew she'd cried in the car. Behind her, she held a small envelope, my wedding invitation, the now yellowed proof of everything we'd lost. She paused, looking around. Our home was modest, warm gray walls. Family photos of me and Bella, none with my parents, and the little dining table where we'd had so many difficult conversations. She took a breath. Matthew, she said, voice barely above a whisper. I motioned for her to sit on the couch. Bella joined us silently, her presence a silent pillar of solidarity. Mom sat, envelope in her lap. She looked at me, then at Bella. Her posture was rigid, as if she still didn't believe she belonged here. Thank you for inviting me, she began, lip trembling. I've thought about your words, about your pain, every day since everything happened. I nodded, watching her carefully. She unfolded the envelope and pulled out the wedding invitation. I kept this because it was the last time I felt proud as your mother. Then I realized I wasn't proud. I was ashamed of what I'd become. Bella set her book aside and gave Mom her full attention. Mom's gaze flicked to Bella. I'm sorry. Isabella, I called you exotic. I treated you like an outsider. You deserved respect I withheld because of my own prejudice. Her voice caught. She swallowed. I've spent nights awake, replaying every word, every look of disgust. I never wanted to hurt you, but I did, and I can't take that back. She paused, tears slipping down her cheeks. I know apologies aren't enough. I know you deleted my messages, that you threw away my gift. I deserve that. My throat tightened. Part of me still ached, but another part, my part, felt weight lifting. Mom took a small wooden box from her pocket. Inside was a single silver locket engraved with our initials, M+L. I wanted you to have it, she said, opening it to reveal 2 faded photos, me as a boy, smiling, her, younger, laughing. I found it while packing. I know it doesn't erase my mistakes, but I hope it reminds you of who we were and who I want to be again." She held it out. Bella reached forward, but I stopped her gently. I stood, walked over, and took the locket. It felt cold, then warm in my hand. The chain was tarnished, but the silver still gleamed where our initials met. I looked at Mom. "Thank you." And I meant it. For a while, none of us spoke. The only sound was the ticking of the wall clock. Then Mom exhaled, steadying herself. "I know you don't want to discuss the past again, but I'd like to try rebuilding, if you'll let me." My gaze flicked to Bella, her eyes encouraging. I swallowed. "Mom," I said quietly, "I've already forgiven you. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means moving forward together, or separately." Mom's eyes filled again. "I understand." I looked at Bella. She nodded. Then I looked back at Mom. "If you truly want to be part of our lives," I said, "you'll show up. Not for appearances, not for legacy or image. You'll show up when we're sick, when we need help, when we're happy. And you'll respect us every day." Mom wiped her eyes. "I will." Over the next hour, we talked not as adversaries, but as mother, son, and daughter-in-law trying to find a new way forward. Mom shared how she'd begun volunteering at a local multicultural center, trying to unlearn her biases. Dad, I learned, had lost nearly half his business and had started an online restoration group that welcomed members of all backgrounds, teaching him lessons he'd refused to learn in person. Jake popped in on FaceTime. He'd been off camera for months. He apologized again, talked about leaving the family business to start a consulting firm focused on inclusive corporate culture. Ashley sent a message. "I'm sorry. Bella, I see you. I respect you. I want to learn." Bella replied with a thumbs-up emoji. It wasn't perfect. It was messy. It was real. That evening, Mom left with a promise to return for brunch next weekend. She kissed my cheek, hugged Bella, then turned and walked away this time. Not as a resentful outsider, but as a tentative ally. When the door clicked shut, Bella exhaled, leaning against me. "I'm proud of you," she whispered. "I'm proud of us," I said. We stood in silence for a moment, listening to the quiet hum of our home. Then I smiled. "Think they'll actually come back?" She chuckled softly. "If they do, we'll welcome them. If they don't, we'll be fine." I nodded. We've got our own legacy now. Later, as I prepared dinner, I held the silver locket in my palm. The initials M+L blurred as tears gathered in my eyes. Not tears of sorrow, but relief. Because stories like ours don't end neatly. They require courage, honesty, and the willingness to keep choosing love over convenience. And sometimes revenge isn't about punishment, it's about reclaiming your dignity. Now, I want to hear from you. Has someone you love ever had to earn your forgiveness? Drop a comment and share your story. If you believe in second chances, hit like. If you think some actions are unforgivable, hit dislike. And if you haven't already, subscribe and ring that bell, because real stories, messy stories, are what connect us all. Thanks for watching. I'm Matt, and this was our journey from rejection to reclamation. See you next time.